Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Catherine Kraft, clinical psychologist. This is the third in a series of videos on managing anxiety during the COVID-19 pandemic. Learn these strategies now and you'll be able to use them anytime, even when the epidemic is over, when we enter our new normal, whatever that is, and whenever that's going to be. Have you been practicing your diaphragmatic breathing? I talked about that in the first video. It's very important when you are relatively calm to learn about diaphragmatic breathing and to practice it when you don't need it. That way, when you perceive that you are getting anxious, you can launch yourself right away into diaphragmatic breathing so that you can well oxygenate your blood and therefore well oxygenate your brain. Only when the brain is well oxygenated can we then begin to employ this, our frontal cortex, to think and strategize and figure out what am I supposed to do with myself in this moment now that I'm feeling anxious. This we all need to learn to deal with at some point in our lifetime. We are fortunate to be living in a century in which our collective understanding of human emotions has grown enormously. Developing anxiety management skills is part of developing what today we call emotional intelligence. So besides practicing your diaphragmatic breathing, have you been seeking out your groups, both your large group and your small group? At least one large group. We'll talk more about that today. And one small group that can be emotionally supportive to you. Anxiety, which is a four-syllable word for fear, is very difficult. However, when we are afraid alone, it becomes very, very difficult, and we may even begin to start saying things to ourselves in our head like, I can't take this, this is awful, I can't do this. You become even more anxious when you are alone. Remember the story I told in my last video of the two Peace Corps volunteers who, even when they were dying, reached out to each other and were found with their arms around each other. That's how much we need each other as human beings. So we are social creatures. Social distancing, then, is very, very difficult for us. It literally goes against our nature as human beings. We were meant to be, and we are, social creatures. As one of your strategies for constructively addressing anxiety, embrace belonging to a group or two, at least one large group and one small group. You may find it comfortable to belong to many large groups. You may find it comfortable to belong to more than one small group. But the small group is the group that you turn to when you are very anxious and need emotional support. This video centers on some challenges that you may have in establishing and maintaining small groups. One reason we find belonging to small groups difficult is because we don't understand how small groups function. There's a type of psychologist called a social psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist. And social psychologists have been researching the psychology of groups for well over 100 years now. And they've learned a lot. If you find what I say in this video and the last video very interesting, you may want to Google the words social psychology or psychology of groups so that you can learn even more about how groups work. If in your ordinary pre-pandemic life, your work involved working in some way, shape, or form with groups, then you may really find it fascinating to learn how groups genuinely do function. The first group that is important to all of us, we call family. This is the family that you're born into, but there are many types of families. You may be adopted into a family. May have been raised by foster families. Families are not only those who we grow up with in some way. Friends are the family we choose. The first group that is important to all of us is family. Family is a small group that, if your mother had 4 or more children, may actually be a larger group. Now, I hear some of you saying, yes, but you don't know my family. I'm not close to my family. We don't talk. Well, how about during this time, when you're home anyway, you seek to get close to family in some way. Reach out to someone, brother, sister, cousin, and see if in this time of anxiety, they too are anxious and may want to connect or reconnect with you. Reach out to your extended family. Family is a source of distress for many people. Not just stress, distress. One reason I've learned over the years that people are distressed about their family is because they don't understand that all large groups naturally break up into smaller groups. You cannot be simultaneously close in the same way to everyone. Seek out someone in your entire extended family. Who might you be closest to? It might be a cousin you don't often see, but had a very engaging conversation with for 2 hours at the last funeral or wedding or family reunion. See if there's someone you can reach out to. Once you have that group of 2, talk about who might you else invite into that group. Make it a group of 3 instead of a group of 2. Family is something that can be built. If your mother had 4 or more children, you have actually been born into a large group. And over the years, you may have experienced the phenomenon of that larger group breaking up into smaller groups of 2 or 3. Or if you indeed are from a very large extended family, from groups perhaps as big as 4, rarely as big as 5. On the whole, however, all large groups splinter into smaller groups. So if there is a small group in your family and you're not part of it, please don't allow yourself to feel hurt by that. All large groups break up. This is the way groups are. You see, it seems that nature knows what we ourselves pretend we don't know. Nature knows that emotional support comes from a smaller group of people around us. Nature knows that there's no such thing as 30,000 friends. You have a community of 30,000 people. Yes, you can do that. You can have a very large, this is the large group, you can belong to very large communities of people. But for emotional support, you want to pursue establishing for yourself a small group. That is something then that will help you in times of anxiety. All right, now I hear you. I hear some of you saying, oh, you just don't get it. I'm not close to my family. We don't talk. I can't possibly contact them. I have no family. All right, I understand. This is difficult. Nonetheless, what would happen if you tried? If you're used to not contacting your family, then the worst that can happen is you'll continue to not contact your family. So why don't you at least give it a try? If you still believe that it's just not possible for you to contact anyone in your family of origin, then move on to look more closely at that large group, the large group that you're a part of. One reason it is so important to be part of larger groups is because if you are a member of a larger group, even if you don't very actively participate, you're a member of a group that you have something in common with. If it's a garden club and you all garden, well then that's what you have in common with those that are in the group, is the gardening. It is from these large groups of people that we have something in common with, that we evolve our smaller groups, our smaller support groups. They come from the larger groups because that's where we meet people, that's where we talk to people, that's where we get to know people, and so we're able to figure out who do I have even more in common with, and might I be able to get to know them and they to get to know me. And we evolve some type of friendship or smaller group of 2, 3, or 4 people. Those small groups then become like family for you. Friends are the family we choose. So if you can't turn to your family of origin, seek out to build and develop friendships. Now again, I'm not talking about large groups, pursuing large groups for the sake of large groups. I'm talking about pursuing a large group so that you have at least one thing in common with the people that are in that group. And you can then build from there and build up a small group. I've mentioned mutual aid societies as a type of group that has sprung up almost overnight around the country to support people. These are not groups from the government. These are groups of people, usually at the neighborhood level, maybe at the town or village level, who get together by video chat, and figure out that they can do something to help other people in their neighborhood. Like, for example, pick up groceries and deliver groceries safely with your mask on, deliver groceries to someone in your neighborhood. These would be groups that you could join. You want to help, you want to participate, you want to get out of the house, but in a good way. This would be the type of group, a mutual aid society group, that you can either seek out or start yourself with 1 or 2 friends so that you can have a group that will then be emotionally supportive of you too, that you can turn to when you're anxious. Now there's still some of you out there, and I hear you, and you're probably not only talking at the TV right about now, you may be crying, weeping, because you're saying, you just don't get it. I have no family. I have no friends. I've tried. People hate me. I'm all by myself. I can't do it. I'm alone. Many people feel like you. I want to tell you that I know 2 things about you. You think I don't know you. I know 2 things about you. If you have listened to this video as long as you have, and perhaps also to the first 2 videos that precede this, then one thing I know about you is that you are a person who listens. You know how to listen. The second thing I know about you is that you are a person of feelings, or you wouldn't be watching videos that have to do with fear, which is an emotion. You are a person of deep feelings. It just so happens that these 2 qualities, listening and having deep feelings, being able to empathize with other people, these are precisely the 2 qualities that are needed to make a good friend and to build friendships. So I'm so very sorry that other people have not yet seen what a great person you are, what great qualities you have, the ability to listen, the ability to feel deeply, the ability to care about other people who listen and other people who need to talk and share their emotions with you. So after you're finished listening to this video, seek out someone who needs to listen and hear what you have to say. You need someone to listen to you, but someone else needs you to listen to them. When you listen to others and empathize with their feelings, you're able to get your own emotions out and exchange back and forth how you're feeling with each other. This builds connection. Connection builds community. And connection and community allay anxiety. They help us to feel not quite so anxious. There are wonderful stirrings around the land of people reaching out to other people. The governor of Illinois announced that a phone line is being set up for people who need to talk. Now, overnight, teletherapy has sprung up. You don't have to leave your house to go to a therapist office. Check with your insurance company. Check with your state psychological association or Department of Health. Who is available to video chat with you in psychotherapy at this time? Besides this, support groups that traditionally have met in person, they're having to figure out new ways to get together and support each other in a continuing way. But the phone calls I'm talking about, they're not therapy, and they're not even a support group, but they are supportive. They're so new that I don't think there's even a name for them yet, for these phone calls. It's, hey, listen, somebody out there, I need to talk to somebody. I'm going crazy by myself in my apartment. Please, I just need somebody to talk to. Phone lines. Those phone lines. We need more of those phone lines so that everyone does have somebody that they can talk to. It is very difficult to feel totally alone. In ordinary times, it's difficult. In a time of pandemic, that has increased many times over. It's very frightening. Practice your breathing and renew your efforts to get involved with some group or groups so that you can develop the emotional support that you need. I'd like to tell you a story about a young woman who thought she was all alone. She was walking her dog one day. Dog walkers still have to safely walk their dogs at this time. She was walking her dog and thinking very dark thoughts. She was thinking, I'm all alone. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. She talked to her puppy and said, if you were not here, I would probably just kill myself. But then, who would take care of you? I know you need me to take care of you. But she still continued to think these dark thoughts, very, very dejected, what people would call depressed, looking down as she walked along and her puppy searched out just the perfect place to pee. As she was thinking these thoughts, walking along, watching her doggie sniff from bush to bush, she suddenly lifted her head up at the sky. And as she did, she saw clouds in the shape of 3 letters. Just as she was thinking, no one loves me, no one loves me, she looked up and saw 3 letters that spelled, I do. Now, the astounding thing to me about this story is not that she looked up and saw clouds in the shape of these letters. We've all seen streaks of cloud that we could easily see as the letter I. And we've all seen rounded, puffy clouds, circular clouds, and maybe even a circular cloud with a patch of blue in the middle of it that might look like an O or a D. No, that's not the astounding thing to me about this story, a true story. The astounding thing is that she looked up just at the precise right moment. Maybe you've had the experience of driving along, driving west in the afternoon. You turn the corner, go round a curve, and there, laid out before you, is a gorgeous, spectacular sunset with beautiful colors in the sky. You say to your companion sitting next to you, look, look, what a great sunset, it's spectacular, look. But your companion's sitting there doing this, doing this. Okay, all right, I will, in a minute. I gotta finish this in a minute. Finally, they finish their texting or emailing, whatever they were doing, and they look up and they see the sky. And they say to you, oh, well, yeah, that's nice. Oh, but it's not spectacular. And you say, It was spectacular when I told you to look. If you would have just looked up when I told you to look, you would have seen it was spectacular. Because that's how fast the sky changes. But this young woman, if she had looked up 2 minutes before she did, she would not have seen the same sky. If she had kept her eyes on her puppy moving from bush to bush and looked up 3-4 minutes later, she would not have seen exactly the same sky. But as she was walking along, and just as she was thinking and saying in her head, "No one loves me, no one loves me," she looked up and saw the words, "I do," written in the clouds. You are not alone. None of us are alone. We are here for each other, and in this time of pandemic, absolutely need to reach out. Establish your small group. Make those phone calls. Investigate the possibility of connecting with others, perhaps in teletherapy in some way, shape, or form. We will make it through this, even if we stumble our way through. This is the time for us all to learn how to visit fear, but refuse to live there. I have much more to tell you in future videos of strategies for dealing with fear. No, it's not as simple as the two things I've discussed so far, breathing and establishing groups for social connectedness. There's much more to it, one thing at a time. I hope that you will continue to seek out my videos and ask your friends to watch the same videos so that more and more people may learn about these strategies and approaches to fear management to help themselves get through this time. I know that heaven is with us. May your angels bless you.